Hi there, knife people. Hello, lady and gentlemen. Tonight I'm going to talk about a new Benchmade, new in the world and new in my collection, and it's Benchmade Redoubt, or as I instantly started referring to it, Benchmade broom handle. And here's why. Most of the knife collectors also enjoy collecting firearms. And here's one of my stars, a C96 Mauser Model 30, aka broom handle, because of the shape of this handle. Check this out. I don't get to say it too often, but I think Benchmade marketing geniuses missed an opportunity. All they had to do is make these grooves, no checkering, and here you have it. Everyone would want this knife. I mean, I know somebody will comment, ergonomics is ergonomics, hand is a hand, but check this out. Even this curve here is very closely matched. And there are some other clues that instantly reminded me of this pistol. But enough about guns. So mine came in this unusual to most of you folks blister packaging. And the reason it comes in this packaging is because this particular knife was sold through the military store system, which I have a privilege of access to. It just the way Benchmade reduces cost. So there's no silky bag that comes with it, but everything else, everything you actually need is there. The essence of this knife is this CPM D2 blade. I'll come back to the steel later. For now, suffice it to say, it's one of the best steels available on the market right now. Bear with me and I'll explain why it's not the same as a traditional ingot-made D2 steel that you find on the inexpensive knives. It is surprisingly well balanced, but the ergos of the handle are somewhat strange and will take getting used to. And especially a very aggressive checkering and jimping on the back of the handle. There's nothing bad that I can say about the function of this knife. The action is smooth thanks to the large bronze bushings. The thing I'm not crazy about is how cheap the materials feel. Right out of the packaging, no wrist flick is required to open the knife. Decent piece of work here. I kind of don't like doing size comparisons because they don't really tell the story of how the knife would feel in the hand. But just in case you're wondering, here it is next to Adamas and Mini Adamas. Claymore and Mini Claymore, which by the way are made with the same CPM D2 steel, and I torture tested one of them. I'll provide the link to that video. And here it is next to Bug Out and the Narrows, the most controversial knife in my collection. And for the Spidey fans out there, this is next to the Manix 2 Lightweight and the Shaman. And this here represents half of my Spyderco collection. The other two Benchmades currently in production that fill the same niche is this Presidio and Boost assisted knife. I think lots of you will be familiar with the Kershaw Emerson knife, and some of you by now are familiar with Microtech MSI that I recently reviewed on this channel, and I'll provide the link if you want to see what issues I found with it and how I fixed them. This baby, Benchmade people should pay close attention to. In the same price range as this creation, and few little teething problems that I found, this is still a showstopper for a lot of Benchmade products. And speaking of the edge, let's try some cigarette rolling paper. This is a little tougher. That will cut. I sharpened it recently myself. Let's see. Come on, Benchmade, don't let me down. It's toothy, so it doesn't like getting into the edge. But once it's in, it needs sharpening, but it's not terrible. I'm gonna strop it. I don't count how many times I strop on each side, because if you like counting, you should be an accountant, and I'm not. I just, I kind of feel what it does and go with that. Let's try it again. Definitely helped. Now, let's talk about geometry here. The blade is almost a full flat grind, so this knife will be a lot slicier than the MSI. But I don't know if that's the feature that everyone who would buy a knife like that would be looking for. And really, if you are looking for a sort of EDC slash work tool tactical, I'm just saying, if you can find one. I was lucky to get one online recently. Anyway, and one of the reasons I'm talking smack about this knife is the materials and how they treated them. So this jimping here is extremely sharp, and it's very uncomfortable when I compress my fingers. Very uncomfortable. It's not aided at all by the fact that the inner edges here are also very sharp. They left them, you can see the burr from the mold that they came out of. And that is, in my book, a big problem. You know, at this price level, you would expect it to be at least as good as a Milwaukee knife that you buy at the hardware store. So what I do like about it a lot is the brand new, and that doesn't happen very often at Benchmade, they came out of their traditional pocket clip closet. They had that for ages, and ages back, it's where it belongs. And they came out with this clip. Here's what I like about this clip. Much lower profile. And this tip here is not too protrudy, but it grips on the pocket pretty well. What I don't like about it is this cross hatching. If you have thicker pants, the cross hatching catches on the pocket, and it's kind of hard to get it in and out. Hallelujah, they countersunk the screw. I don't know if you can see here. There's no screw head protruding. And I guess it's part of the knife's disassembly, which all I see visibly is 3 screws right now. Here, here, and this stop post right here. There might be more inside, but I doubt it. So this green piece here comes off as an integral sort of backing to the knife. I think they did it to give it a little more stability. And indeed, this knife feels very solid. There's a little bit of a give here, but I have to really push hard, and you wouldn't feel it in hand. What you would feel in hand is those jimpings all over, and this is way too aggressive for a naked hand. Which brings me to a point that I wanted to discuss. I think what they did is they targeting military personnel here, because this knife would meet all the typical military requirements of being able to operate it in a gloved hand, even possibly in the Arctic gear. And that's a good thing, you know, but most of people who would be buying this knife probably not interested in using it 100% with a gloved hand. I like how they treated the lanyard hole here. It's going to be, I like to use in and out lanyards. So in other words, instead of passing it through, I make a lanyard first if I plan to use one. And with access lock, I'll explain why you should or could use lanyards. not using this lanyard. And then I tie it like this, and so you can see that this lanyard hold accommodates this type of knot very nicely. And I can always remove the lanyard if I need to use the paracord for something else. Here's about, let me close the knife here. Here's about probably 1.5 foot of paracord in this. And I use this noose style. It does function as a noose. And I know people call it Chris Reeve style lanyard, but it's basically just a hanger's noose type knot with extra loopies around it. I totally digressed. So I already know, I can feel it in the air. Some of you will comment that D2 is a terrible steel, it's total junk, and the knife should be half the price with that steel. So let me tell you something. If you're not a reader of Dr. Larry Thomas' book, he is like a knife blade steel god, literally. He invented MagnaCut steel. He participated in developing S45 VN for Chris Reeves' company. Anyway, he has all the accolades you need to trust his judgment, and on page 45 of this book, it's chapter 5, he's talking about powder-formed metals versus ingot-produced steels. And here's D2 at hardness about 62.25, 62.5. You draw the line, and there's CPM D2. So CPM stands for Crucible Powder Metallurgy. It's a US company. This steel that's on this blade is only made in the United States. And it has same chemical composition as this steel, but if you look at regular ingot form steel, see these white things? These are large carbons which cause blade toughness to go down. So these carbons are brittle. They're hard but brittle. So when you apply any kind of side pressure on the blade, the micro cracks start forming, and they travel from one large carbide to the next and form a crack. In a powder form, same composition, these blades under microscope look like these. So same blade on the Claymore, which I personally torture tested. Anyway, see how small and symmetrically shaped sort of carbide inclusions are? That's what makes your edge retention better, and it adds toughness. Now back to the chart. I know, let me try to zoom in here a little bit. All right, so on this chart, you can clearly see that at the same hardness, that's the hardness in Rockwell units, RC. So at 62, let's call it 62.25, the D2 toughness is just under 4 foot-pounds. So it would take 4 foot-pounds. So the force of, if you had a foot-long lever and you put pressure with it on the blade, torque the blade with it, all you would have to do is apply 4 pounds of force to start yielding or breaking, cracking. For the CPM version of the same steel, it's just under 12 foot-pounds. So it would take 3 times or 300% the amount of effort to break this blade. That's what it boils down. I am growing a little bit tired of people who learned a few things here and there from not always credible sources, and then they voice their sort of unencumbered by self-evaluation opinion about certain things that they don't understand. And I'm sorry if I'm alienating somebody by saying that. Vicon Diaz. I don't want to waste my time answering your comments. So much like its namesake, at least in my book, the broom handle Mauser, this knife has a lot of good things, about it and a lot of things that need further development. They totally should address the sharp edges here. This potentially could actually hurt somebody. It's that sharp, especially right here in the suto, and especially here in the sawtooth area. Can you see the burr right there? This lighter color, sorry, lighter color right there. It's sharp. It actually digs into skin. This is too much checkering, just too much. A frag checkering, look at like some of the Microtech frag checkering on their OTFs, that's the right amount. Or if you are smart, do it like this. You know how much people would love it? Look at this, there's so many things that you could borrow from a broom handle. Anyway, I work with a lot of military personnel, and I shop in the same places they do sometimes. So if I was a young soldier, Marine, Airman, or Navy sailor, or Coast Guard, I would not buy this knife, because in the same store, and all of these knives are currently available in at least the Marine store post exchanges, Marine Corps post exchanges, MCXs. These are Benchmade Griptilians. They don't sell Spydercos, so that's the closest you can get to a Spidey hole design. And out of these three knives, I would definitely pick this one because I already discussed issues with the thumb stud. Anyway, this is CPM S30V steel, which is more stainless than the CPM D2. All in all, utility-wise, you're probably going to be better served with a Griptilian, and Griptilian is designed with you guys in mind, where it's comfortable to use it with a naked hand, and it's equally comfortable to use it wearing gloves. This Spidey hole gives you more options to open it, right? And it doesn't get in the way of sharpening at all. So I would love to see this knife with this clip and maybe a slicer blade like this. In fact, I'm seriously considering attempting to swap the blades out, but I doubt it would work. Benchmade's knives don't interchange easily. And let me bring the boost that universally disliked by EDC community, because it's an assisted knife, and some of the knife reviewers online don't like that for whatever reason. This is the boost. I torture tested it. It passed with flying colors. S30V as well. Tactical black blade with a avocado color scheme handle. What I like about this knife that none of these have, it's not the fact that it's assisted, but with the assisted knives, Benchmade has the safety. And that safety locks the axis lock in place. It can still move a little bit, but it will not open without you pulling on it. Or you won't be able to pull on it without this being disengaged. So if you're doing something really stupid, and I know you will, this blade will not collapse on you, and most likely any of these, if you spine strike something just to impress your buddies or whatever you guys doing out there, I've seen your knives. Anyway, this is a great feature to have. Since I'm on this topic, let me show you one other trick out of my old farts sleeve. Here's one of my other Lanyard creations. And this one in here, if you see right here inside this, I took the white cordage out and I cut it short, and then I put a piece of metal old thread in there and just clipped off end of the screw or something, just any kind of hard plastic or metal object. And now if I touch it to a knife with the axis lock, like this guy, I can insert it You know, it's long enough to go from the lanyard hole. I can insert it, and all you need to do is lock one side. They're connected anyway. So now it acts just like this safety here. So if you were to spine strike this knife, it would not unlock. Almost every Benchmade access lock unlocks on the spine strikes, and some of them actually develop a play, even the beefiest ones. Like the full-size Adamas that I tested, when I spine struck it, it didn't unlock, but it developed, somehow it wore down on this crossbar, and now it goes too far in, so it's kind of runs out of a ramp on the back of the blade. It's hard to explain, but it doesn't create that downward pressure on the blade, so it developed a play. So, like I said, when it's not a matter of if, but when you do something stupid with your knife, use a knife that can handle it. This is a great feature. It exists on auto Adamas as well, and any other assisted knife that Benchmade makes. So, really good feature. And don't listen to people who badmouth assisted knives. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Just because somebody cannot dangle it like this. If dangling is important to you, you know, dangle your freaking iron balls. You don't need to dangle a knife. If you're in uniform, right, any uniform, whether military, police, first responder, Coast Guard, any uniform, hospital scrubs, you got nothing to prove to anybody by doing this. Leave it to like Nick Shabazz and Metal Complex and all the mama's basement dwellers. Get a tool that you actually going to use for the job. Man, I'm full of wisdoms tonight, and it's getting late and I have to walk my dog. So with these happy thoughts, happy Labor Day, everybody.